I have spent the last few years studying power, meeting behaviors, power struggles in meetings, and I have looked at power as a tool. And in this research, I have found that most people find that power is something they do not want to admit that they wish for. When you think of a power person, you think of people like Hitler, Mussolini, or Pol Pot, or any other kind of bad, maniacal, step on others to get ahead kind of person. But what about Bill Gates? What about Mother Teresa? Would you say they had power? I hope you would answer yes on that. Power gives us a voice. And the more power we have, the louder our voice. And so the real question is, if you have power, are you going to use it for good or evil? Do you even know that you have power? I have met people in the organizations that I'm affiliated with that would say they have absolutely no power. And then I ask them, if at 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon you receive an email, do you have the option to think, I'll deal with it on Monday, close it, or do you have to respond? Because even that act of deciding to respond to that email after a weekend, that's power. And what I hope to do today is to show you how you can increase your power, and hopefully you'll use that power for good and not evil. So what I have created is this fun game that you spread out, and you have your 4 lens, also known as frames, your 5 power bases, and your 6 leadership styles. And you choose one from each pile, each section that best represents you. Now, on occasion, I have found that some people have difficulty finding one that best represents them of the group, and so they pick more than one, which is absolutely acceptable, and in fact, it tells more about the person. So usually when I give these workshops and the people put the cards that best represent them, I'm able to tell them if they're happy at their job, if they're doing well, if they have confidence in themselves, etc. And it has been, people have likened it to fortune telling, but really it's just a matter of knowing the cards and knowing what the person behind those cards would do. And I can give you some examples of that as well. So the first ones are the 4 lens. And I want to talk about the 4 lens individually. First, let's talk about the structural lens. The structural lens, the person that uses that lens is one that really is all about facts and policies and formality, and they are the institution's history keeper. And sometimes they choose that lens because they really like facts and policies. Sometimes they choose that lens because they've seen somebody do something that maybe broke the rules and they were in trouble. And sometimes they use that lens because they lack confidence or they don't like people, somewhat antisocial, and so they hide behind it. To give you an example, if somebody were to come up to you and to ask you if they could have Friday off, and you don't really want them to have Friday off, but you don't know how to tell them that. You're not confident enough in your ability to talk, so you will say, well, according to the rules, you must be here Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. So when you have the rules, you're able to make decisions without having to support them other than those are the rules. Let's now talk about human resources. It fits nicely after this one. The human resources lens is the lens that the person is really all about the individual, the colleague, the subordinate. They mean a lot to you. Your teammates mean a lot to you. And sometimes they can mean so much that you lose sight of the goals of the organization. So in each of these, you can find good and you can find bad. And I hope to point out at least one good and one bad of each of them. The image, the icon, the goals of the organization, they're the ones that will remind you. That's it for Bowman and Dill's 4 frames. Now I'm going to talk to you about Raven and French's 5 power bases. Let's start with my least favorite, coercive power base. A leader that uses a coercive power base will use examples like, you're supposed to be here at 8 o'clock in the morning and you're not here at 8 o'clock in the morning. If you continue to not show up on time, I will fire you. I may, if this person's talking to me, I'll start showing up at 8 o'clock, but I won't be motivated. And the goal is to use your power to increase the productivity within your organization, and that's not going to increase productivity. So the next one, which is the rewards power base, you think, oh, of course, rewards are good. However, rewards can be good if you can give them to everybody. If I'm the only person not showing up at 8 o'clock and you say to me, if you show up at 8 o'clock, I'll give you an extra 15 minutes for lunch. Well, of course, now I'm going to show up. However, when my teammates find out that I get an extra 15 minutes, they're not going to be very motivated, and there we've lost the teamwork that we're hoping to achieve. Focus should be on the student. Our focus should be on the veterans. Our focus should be on the customer. They're going to remind you what is the mantra, the motto of the organization. Now, sometimes in doing that, they lose sight of the individual. They know the big picture, but they don't necessarily know how to get there. So again, it's important that you have all the different lenses represented in your table, especially in your decision making. The political frame is the last of the 4 frames. It's my favorite. It's my favorite because people assume it's going to be bad, especially because of politics and politicians. And you think, oh, they're liars. They will say and do anything to get your money, to get your vote. But the political frame represents a very confident individual. Their goal is to sway you over onto their team. They are the master negotiators. And they can do this because they're very confident in what they have to say, and they've done their research, their homework, and they know you. If I am using the political lens right now, and I want my teammates to join me in some endeavor, I will have to use different methods to convince each of my teammates to follow me. So let me show you. One of my teammates often operates from a structural lens. So if I want to win that teammate over, I'm going to tell them how my idea fits into the policies and the regulations of the organization. If my teammate is using an HR frame, I'm going to tell them how whatever my idea is, how it's going to benefit the individuals in the organization. And if I want to win over a symbolic lens person, I'm going to tell them how this idea is going to benefit the organization, how it's going to increase camaraderie and group relations. That's it for Bowman and Dill's 4 frames. Next, we're going to talk about Raven and French's 5 power bases. Now, I know you guys know legitimate power base. Legitimate is they have that right. This is their job. For example, I'm the director of a program. As director, I can ask people, tell people what to do. I can make change. However, we must admit that sometimes people are put into those positions, such as directors, and they don't have the skill set. They are not respected like people that are put in those positions because they're really good at their job. And so legitimate power is actually a really weak power, and it's best if you can team up your legitimate power with one of the two personal powers. Referent power base and expert power base are the other two power bases, and they are both personal power bases. Referent power base is all about respect and admiration that the subordinate has for the leader or teammate, colleague. If I'm the leader and people want to do what I ask them to do because they like me or because they like to be around me, then that sounds pretty cool, right? But sometimes, and you can acknowledge that sometimes there are people we really like at work and we do not admire them and we do not respect them, and you think, I like them, however, they have no work ethic, or they never show up on time, or they're not really very smart. So referent may not get you as far as you would like. Expert. There's not a whole lot of bad you can say about this power base. Expert is clearly the leader that has the most expertise, and people will listen and do what they ask because they are the experts. Now that works if what they are being asked or what they are asking others to do is based off of their area of expertise. But for example, if your area is accounting, you're certainly not going to get people to do what you ask if you are a computer programmer. So as long as your expertise falls within the field of whatever it is you're requesting or asking or telling people to do, then you will do well. The important thing here with the power bases is that you understand that the different bases work for different individuals. And what may work for me, what may work for you, may not work for others. And go back to the definition of power. You're trying to convince somebody to do something they would not normally do. So if you can convince them to do it and they're happy, you're going to have a really great organization and a great team. If you convince them to do it and they're not happy, of course, you're going to get the job done, but it's not going to be a good atmosphere. So try your best to pick the power bases that best reflect the people that you are asking to do these things. Leadership styles. And I'm going to start off with the commanding leadership style. I'm ex-Army, military, and this is the style that most military people use. It is the do what I tell you to do, or else. That works if you have a bunch of misfits. But if you have people that really appreciate that individual attention, that want to feel like they're liked, that's not going to work. Pacesetter. Pacesetter is often perceived as a negative leadership style, but let me give you an example of it being used in a negative way. If I'm your leader, your boss, your supervisor, your manager, whatever, and I tell you, I am going to be here until 9 o'clock tonight working on this, and I want you to be here with me. You can take this in a couple different ways. Number one, oh, what a great boss, what a great supervisor. I have to be here late. They're going to be here with me. We're going to do this together, teamwork. Or if you're one of those 9 to 5ers, you're going to be like, no, my job ends at 5 o'clock. Enjoy your evening. And you're not going to stay willingly. So just know, once again, know your audience and use it when you think it's going to benefit you. This is going to fail. The affiliative leader is very much like the HR. They're all about the individual people, HR frame. They're all about the individual people, and they will take their time to make teammate 1 happy. Unfortunately, if they make teammate 1 happy, they need to make teammate 2 happy. And if teammate 2 happy and teammate 2's happiness and teammate 1's happiness conflict, then this person's going to be unhappy. Coaching. I'm actually a big fan of coaching and executive coaching, and I think I'm a better person because of these experiences that I've had. However, if you're trying to coach somebody, I know you can do it, come on, you're great, you're wonderful, and they can't, then you're hurting yourself and you're hurting them. So make sure when you use this coaching leadership style that you use it for people that actually can achieve whatever it is you're trying to encourage them to achieve. Be honest with them and be honest with yourself. If you have trouble doing that, read the book Crucial Conversations. It's a great book. The last leadership style is democratic leadership. Democratic leaders are the ones that will seek out other people's opinions and ideas and listen and contemplate and then come up with a decision. And this can be a really great thing because when you bring a team together, you're typically bringing a team together because they are experts and you want to take advantage of that expertise. And you do that by having them at the table and helping and making decisions for the good of the company. However, if that person is choosing to use the leadership style because they lack confidence, then it's not really going to benefit them. If the democratic leader chooses to ask others because they're not confident enough in themselves to make a decision, then we have problems, and then the leadership style fails. So I shared with all of you the different bases, the different frames, the different styles, and as I said, we spread them out and everybody picks one. So what I would like to do now is pick one from each 4, 5, and 6, and I want you to tell me about me. Okay? So just for the record, this isn't really me, but for the game, this is me. I prefer to look at the world through a political lens. I am all about using a coercive power base. I don't want coercive power base. Let me switch that up. Legitimate. I'm going to use legitimate power base. I have this power because at least one person in my organization felt I deserved it. That may or may not be me. I picked democratic leadership because I can ask others to help me make decisions. And I like facts and policies. What would you think if I were to have structural lens, legitimate power, democratic leadership? What do you think? What are your first words that you would use to describe me in my leadership? You can pause and think about it, or you can continue, and I will tell you. Well, based off of these, I know my facts, know my policies, probably antisocial, don't like to talk to people, and maybe not a whole lot of confidence because I hide behind the facts. I have power. Somebody believes in me. Maybe one person, maybe more. But I have it, and it doesn't necessarily mean I've earned it or that I have the confidence to keep it. Democratic leader, I ask others for opinions and maybe can't make a decision by myself. So the question is, am I a good leader? If I have a really great team, and as a leader, I am just guiding them, or I'm an administrative arm of that team, then absolutely this would work. There's nothing wrong with this combination. But if I need help, if my team needs help, and they're not as competent as we would want, then this combination would not work. Okay, so if I have a team that needs a kick in the butt, and you know, sometimes teams do, what would work? What do you think about this person? If I said this is a good representation of me as a leader, what would you think about me now? I prefer the political lens, which means I'm pretty confident in myself. I like the game. I like a jungle. I probably thrive on stress. Coercive, I'm probably short-tempered and I want people to just do what I want them to do, so I'm going to threaten them. And by gosh, they better do it. So, am I a good leader? If my team needs a kick in the butt, sure. But as soon as that team steps up and starts performing, these traits better go away. Now, I say some of this in a joking manner, but in fact, you know, all of these traits will work. And if you learn the traits and you learn the people that you work with, learn what works for them. As a leader, you should absolutely be using each and every one of these traits when the time is appropriate, when the people need it, and hopefully by practicing this over and over, you will end up being a better leader and be part of a positive, growing organization. Thank you very much for listening to my talk. And if you want to learn more, just send me a message.